Many times when I speak about things on the continent or different countries that is in the diaspora, understand something. I'm speaking about the government. I want to make sure I say this. I'm not speaking about the people at all. Make sure I say this because I don't want people to think that, oh, I'm labeling the whole country with the actions of the government. No, just like when the United States government do something, it's not the whole people in the United States. It's the actions of the government, which is the actions of a few. We want to make sure we say that because we did the video on the Dominican Republic. I've said many times I'm speaking about the government because I know a lot of us are in the Dominican Republic. We were dropped off in Hispaniola. I understand that. It was people going back and forth on the beef. And when I stated in that particular video about not going over there until they change their policies, it's because you need to make the government change, not the people. OK, I know they got some great people there. Now, with this particular story out of the Ivory Coast. Now, I got wind of this maybe about a week or so ago. Someone sent me this in my email, but this actually was dated back in March, about the end of March. And you have a brother by the name of Kemi Seba. Now, he is a Pan-Africanist. I'm pretty sure you've seen him on Dynasty Mirror's channel. Shout out to him. Go subscribe to Search for Uhuru. He has been one to speak against France's colonization of West Africa. Now, West Africa and the 14 nations, what they call Francophone nations, France has a foothold. We talked about that in a live stream talked about that prior before in a live stream. And shows how they have a currency, the CFA currency, okay? Now, in France, they don't even use the CFA. They use the euro. Anytime France can break those 14 African nations' economy by just devaluing the currency. So you have a brother by Kemi Seba. He said, you know what? No, these 14 West African nations should not be using this currency. We need to come up with our own currency and go do it that way, not to be using this CFA. France has neo-colonized West Africa. A lot of times, that's why I'm not too enthused about doing certain things in West Africa. Not saying my West African brothers and sisters don't have love for us, because many of them invite us to go and not say I'm not going to West Africa, so don't say that. But what bothers me is that how do you allow France to neo-colonize you? How do you allow that? How do you not take a stand and say, this is Africa, this is not France? You're not going to come over here and just do what you want and destabilize and colonize our countries. And notice the Europe don't say anything about them. The United States don't say anything about them. Obama didn't even say nothing about them. And his father is from Kenya. So you think he would have said something about them, but they don't say nothing at all. They're fine with that. Now, this brother standing up and speaking up for his people, because his people is being colonized, and the government of the Ivory Coast decides to deport him. Why? Not because he's trying to destroy the nation or he's committing crimes or, doing something that they consider treasonous. No, he didn't get deported for that reason. He got deported because he's speaking up against France and he's speaking up against the use of the CFA. That's why he got deported. He understood economically how France is controlling and masterminding and breaking his people. But also, it just wasn't the Ivory Coast his brother was deported from. He was deported from Senegal. He was deported from Togo. Why? Because he's speaking up for his people. Now, to understand the CFA franc, it is a French regulated and dominated currency. So the CFA franc is the name of two currencies. You got the West African CFA franc used in 8 West African nations and the Central African CFA franc used in 6 Central African countries. OK, now both currencies are guaranteed by the French Treasury. And if you go to that live stream I told you guys about, they take all their money and they have to put all these 14 African nations money into French banks. And then the French give them back a percentage of their money. Do you understand that? The French is living off of those African nations. They're not doing nothing by themselves at all. You're talking about handout, welfare, and everything. So when you go over there, look at the Eiffel Tower and all the things you like going to see in France, that's because of Africa. That's not because of them. They can't do nothing of themselves or of their own. In the history of these people, they need black folks to make it. They don't build nothing by themselves. And then you do research the history of when they are by themselves, you see the results of it. So this brother is standing up for his people and he's getting deported. Why can't he stand up for him? This brother was born in Benin. He was born in West Africa. And he can't say a word. See, that's why I say the governments are so intertwined. So this guy, Macron, and why anytime I have a chance to say something about him, I will. Because he's just a little, dictator. He go run around these countries and they make people think, oh, well, it's a democracy. No, it's not democracy. Macron run all those countries. And he can break them at any time. The French has been responsible for many coups in West Africa. Or if they have a leader stand up for their people, they cause a coup to happen. Or they assassinate the president or any kind of leader that's trying to stand up for their people. Why can't they stand up for themselves? But you know what? The time is going to come that people are going to say, man, F this. We going to be free or we going to die. But it's going to be one of the two. We're not going to put up with these sellout puppet leaders. We're not going to put up with the French. And do you know that those African nations have to go to war to help France? Anytime France get into conflict, think about that. So if France going to start a war with somebody, they demand that our African brothers and sisters go help them fight their wars as part of the colonial power they have over there. Someone needs to stand up in those nations. You need to get the spirit of Julius Malema in all African nations. It's a billion people over there, so you can't kill us all. That's how you have to think. What they said in this country, give me liberty or give me death. That's the same way they have to be on the continent. When you see brothers like this getting deported because he's standing up to fight for the freedom of the people, understand that. See, they didn't want, anytime you talk about currency change, they want to kill you, deport you, etc. That's why they killed Gaddafi. Killed Gaddafi because he was trying to do currency change. Not because he wanted to get Africa together. Well, yeah, that's part of it too. But he wanted to change the currency to a gold dinar. He didn't want the dollar in there. He didn't want the euro in there. He didn't want none of that. So he's going to cut the West out. And my thing is, these West African nations should have their own currency. The African Union should be spearheading this. Hey, we want all nations on one currency. That's the only thing that's going to bring the continent together. But these people do not want the continent together. We are better served to them apart, whether it's on a continent, here in America, in the Caribbean, in Central America, South America, those of us that's in Mexico, all of us in the diaspora. They love to keep us apart, love to keep us fighting each other as well. So we cannot end their power. Because once we understand history, once we understand how many of us are more connected than what we think, how they have us fighting each other, even on this side of the hemisphere, how we fighting people that we was actually cool with or family with. You get what I'm saying? Everything they're doing is being exposed. And that's a great thing. But, shout out to this brother here. And I'm going to see if I can reach out to this brother and get him on the show and hear his account firsthand of how they treated this brother for standing up for his people. But this is wrong. And the government of the Ivory Coast, you are extremely, extremely wrong. You so scared of Macron that you don't want this brother fighting for his people? That's wrong. But leave me a comment, let me know what you think about this particular story. But when many of you say, oh, they ain't got people on the continent standing up and fighting, they all just, don't understand, they sellouts. No, that's not true. Don't ever say that. They got many brothers and sisters that stand up every day on the continent fighting just as much as we're fighting. You just don't hear about it.